Locals speak in hushed tones of ghostly soldiers seen marching through living rooms, of a black dog that materialises silently on the ancient castle ramparts, and of a well-dressed gentleman whose piercing eyes follow you as you walk. Sightings like these don't come from a single crumbling building or abandoned inn. They come from everywhere. By day, Tutbury is a picturesque English village, its cobbled streets and historic buildings basking in the glowing sunlight of the countryside. But when the sun disappears behind the rolling hills and the mist creeps in from the fields, something else stirs. A much darker presence. Whispers drift through alleyways, shadows shift behind walls, and footsteps echo in the dead of night. Footsteps that belong to no living soul. One of the most spine-chilling tales comes from Lauren Bagnall, who once worked at the Dog and Partridge pub and hotel. Between 2013 and 2017, she encountered the infamous Grey Lady. Alone, in the quiet hours of the morning, she'd unlock the doors only to glimpse a shadow gliding past her into a room where nothing and no one waited. Static would erupt from silent televisions, invisible hands moved objects, and sometimes she would hear children laughing in empty meeting rooms. But it was the converted flat behind the pub that terrified her the most. Once a coal store, the space harboured something far more sinister. Whatever was in the hotel was playful, Lauren said. But in that flat, it was malicious. With no windows and thick darkness, she often slept with every light on, only to have plugs ripped from sockets and kitchen appliances found relocated into rooms they'd never been in before. Her friend, George Williamson, experienced horrors of his own in a house on Bridge Street. In one chilling incident, Lauren called him, screaming, after the loft hatch crashed to the ground without warning. George himself had seen a man in a beige suit, whose head stayed still, but whose eyes followed him across the room. Sometimes something unseen would climb on top of him in the night, or grasp his hand while he slept. And once, he watched in shock as a glowing orb of white light emerged from a wall and floated calmly into the neighbouring house. The hauntings go beyond homes and pubs. Tutbury Castle, rich with blood-soaked history, is said to be the source of phantom soldiers still fighting battles long lost to time. Ellen Smith, who's led ghost walks through the village since 2007, has heard the stories. The thunder of hooves, the creak of wooden wheels on cobblestones in the early hours, as if the Red Rover coach still rolls through from a century long gone. Even animals sense what humans try to deny. Lauren's grandmother once watched her bold, unshakable dog flee from a silent, motionless black hound that loomed atop the castle ruins. And down on Monk Street, in a haunted paper shop, a woman in spectral white walked through the store and vanished into a solid wall, while her dog trembled outside. And then there's the florist's shop on High Street. Tina Adams, who worked there for 2 decades, watched her son flee after keys launched from a door and struck him in the back. Even burly tradesmen bought in for simple jobs refused to return after a single night. Whatever lingered above that shop, it wasn't just a memory, it was alive. So alive, the place needed an exorcism. From rattling lofts to shadow figures with trilby hats, from Victorian children laughing in locked rooms to hands reaching from the dark, Tutbury does not forget its dead. And its dead, it seems, have not yet moved on. So, what do you believe? Is Tutbury simply a picturesque village with a colourful past? Or is it one of the most haunted places in England, where history and the paranormal walk side by side? Have you ever experienced something strange in Tutbury or anywhere else in Staffordshire? Drop your story or your thoughts down in the comments. Perched on the ragged edge of Cornwall's coast, Zennor is more than just a village. It's a place caught between two worlds, where wind howls over craggy cliffs and the Atlantic crashes against ancient rock. The veil between past and present becomes perilously thin. This timeless hamlet, isolated and weather-worn, is soaked in tales of piracy, witchcraft, and things far stranger still. At the heart of this spectral enclave stands the Tinner's Arms, a 13th century inn whose low ceilings and soot-darkened beams have absorbed centuries of whispered secrets and unspoken dread. By daylight, it offers weary travellers warmth and ale, but by nightfall, it becomes something else entirely. A liminal space where the living and the dead share the same hearth. Those who linger after dark speak of figures drifting silently across the room, never speaking, never seen directly, only caught from the corner of the eye. Footsteps echo across the old wooden floorboards, heard clearly when no one else walks them. A sudden biting cold often sweeps through the bar, leaving patrons clutching their coats, even when the fire roars. Many believe these are the spirits of long-dead miners and smugglers, bound to the inn by unfinished business or buried secrets beneath the stone foundations. Some say they return not to haunt, but to watch, to remember, to exist for just a moment longer in the places they once called home. Yet, the Tinner's Arms is merely the beginning. A short walk from the pub lies St Sennora's Church, where legend whispers of the Zennor mermaid. A haunting tale of a strange, beautiful woman who lured a young man into the sea, never to be seen again. Her stone-carved likeness, watching eternally from a church pew, offers no comfort, only questions. They say she first came on the wind. No one noticed her at first, just a stranger, hooded and graceful, slipping quietly into St Sennora's Church. Her eyes flicked towards the sea-facing window, then settled on the choir, on him, Matthew Travella. His voice, pure and haunting, rose like incense into the stone arches above. It was his singing that called her from the deeps, a sound so unearthly, so full of yearning that even the cold tides paused to listen. She came again the next day, and the next, always at twilight, when the shadows grow long and the sea mists coil through the lanes of Zennor. Nobody knew her name. Her gown shimmered like moonlight on water, and she walked strangely, as if unaccustomed to land. But she never spoke, only watched him, eyes wide with longing and something darker. Over time, whispers crept through the village that she never aged, that her footprints never held shape in the mud, that the air grew damp and briny wherever she stood. But Matthew saw only beauty, a mystery cloaked in salt and silk. The night she spoke to him, the tide was high and the wind still. Nobody heard what she said, only that Matthew followed her, out of the church, out of the village, down to the Pendor Cove, where the cliffs fall sheer and the waves gnash at the rocks below. Matthew was never seen again. Some say she sang to him beneath the waves, others that he went willingly, spellbound, unable to resist her touch. All that remained was the echo of his voice, caught in the stone and sea spray of Zennor's haunted coast. But the story doesn't end there. Years later, fishermen anchored off Pendor Cove heard a sound beneath their boat. A woman's cry, angry, pleading. She spoke of an anchor, a chain, something keeping her from her husband and their children. The men pulled their lines in and left the cove in silence, the surface of the sea now still as glass. If you visit St. Sennora's church, you'll find her still, carved into the pew of a centuries-old bench. For those who sing too sweetly or listen too long, the sea is always listening, and she is still down there, waiting. What do you think? Is Zennor truly haunted, or is it just a place where folklore and history intertwine in eerie harmony? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Where the river bends, so do the paths of the dead. Tucked quietly alongside the River Gower, just outside Chester, lies the quiet village of Tarvin. A place that at first glance appears nothing more than a postcard-perfect slice of the English countryside. But beneath its charm, a ghost weaves her way through time and space, linking some of Tarvin's oldest and eeriest landmarks. Her spectral presence has been reported across the village, from the brooding silhouette of Hocknell Hall to the worn stones of the ancient packhorse bridges, and finally, to a pub whose name alone freezes the blood, the Headless Woman Inn. For those who know the legends, Tarvin is more than just a village. It's a haunted threshold between the living and the long dead. When the moon is high and the wind stills, a figure in white drifts silently through the corridors of Hocknell Hall. She's been seen countless times, a pale young woman in a flowing dress, gliding down staircases, staring from windows, and vanishing into the mist of the gardens. Some say she was a daughter of the Hocknell family, struck down in a tragic accident. Others believe she was a servant whose life ended in cruelty and silence. Whoever she was, she walks still. And when you see her, she's already seen you. Even when the hall stands empty, it never feels alone. Visitors speak in hushed tones of footsteps overhead, echoing through the upper floors. Heavy, deliberate, pacing back and forth, yet nobody is ever found. Some try to explain it away. The creaks of an old house, perhaps. But those who've lived within its walls know better. Because the footsteps don't stop. They follow you. The heart of the house lies in its ancient library, lined with dusty shelves and the scent of aged paper. But it's no sanctuary. It's a trap of whispers. Books have been known to fall without cause. The temperature drops as you cross the threshold, and always there's the feeling that somebody is watching you. Some claim to have seen him, a spectral figure of an elderly man, seated in an old armchair by the fire that no longer burns. He doesn't speak, he doesn't move, but his gaze lingers, a silent guardian of long-forgotten secrets. The gardens of Hocknell Hall bloom with more than flowers. After dark, they come alive with the dead. Shadowy forms are seen flitting between trees, only to disappear when pursued. Soft voices murmur from the hedgerows, conversations that cannot be traced, always just out of reach. Many have described walking the grounds only to be overcome by a sudden chill, as though something unseen has passed straight through them. And the unease, it clings to you, even when you leave. Hocknell Hall is beautiful, yes, but it remembers. It watches, and it mourns those who once walked its halls. and those who still do. Because some doors, once opened, are never truly closed, and at Hocknell Hall, some spirits have never left. So, whether it's the phantom footsteps along Tarvin's ancient lanes, the flickering lights in the old rectory, or the whispered voices that ride the night wind, one thing's for sure: this quiet Cheshire village holds far more than meets the eye. But what do you think? Are the spirits of Tarvin simply echoes of the past, or is something still watching from the shadows? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Have you visited Tarvin? Experienced anything strange yourself? I'd love to hear your stories. And if you enjoy exploring the haunted corners of Britain, don't forget to like and hit the bell so you don't miss what's coming next, because the next village might be even darker. Tucked beneath the limestone cliffs of the Derbyshire Dales, the village of Stoney Middleton wears a quiet face, one of winding roads, forgotten cottages, and the quiet hum of cars passing by on the nearby A263. It is, to most, a place simply passed through. But look closer, and the silence begins to shift and whisper. Because beneath the stillness, Stoney Middleton harbours secrets, dark, tangled, and soaked in centuries of tragedy. Long overshadowed by its infamous neighbour, Eyam, the plague village, Stoney Middleton has its own chilling secrets to tell, and none more disturbing than that of the murdered Scottish pedlar. It was during the festive chaos of Eyam's Wakes Week, when laughter spilled from doorways and coins passed from hand to hand, that a lone trader from Scotland made his usual rounds. But this year, the air had soured. Accusing others of selling without permits, he drew the wrath of rival merchants. Though the constable acted, shutting down the illegal stalls, the damage had been done. Resentment simmered and turned to hate. Warned of danger, the pedlar was escorted to Stoney Middleton to lodge at the Moon Inn. But fate had other plans. That night, the vengeance he'd earned followed him through the dark dale. In the dead of night, behind the closed doors of the inn, he was murdered. A crime so brutal that even the landlord, it said, looked the other way. His killers dragged the body to Coleswalk Cavern, deep in the cliffs between the villages, and left it to rot in the dark. The corpse lay undisturbed for 20 years, until heavy floods churned through the cave, and something grotesque floated free. A foot, still encased in a shoe with a silver buckle. That buckle would be the key to identifying the long-lost pedlar. But even in death, his suffering did not end. Locals claimed his restless ghost roamed the cavern mouth, frightening horses and chilling the blood of those who dared pass. Others swore they saw him inside the Moon Inn, though the ghost now walks the modern pub built across the street long after his death. Perhaps, they say, he took the transfer of the licence literally, following his name rather than his bones. But murder isn't the only sorrow carved into these hills. Not far from the cavern, the cliffs bear the name Lover's Leap, where in 1762 a woman named Hannah Baddeley, grief-stricken after losing her lover, climbed to the edge in silence and threw herself into the abyss. Her skirts caught on the crags and branches, tearing as she tumbled down, but slowing her fall. By some miracle, Hannah survived. Some say she walked away barely scratched, others that she lay broken but alive. The truth is clouded by time, but the tale agrees on one detail: Hannah never loved again. Her leap had shocked the heartache out of her. She died unmarried just 2 years later. A weathered plaque near the base of the cliff still tells her story, though few stop to read it. Today, Stoney Middleton sits quiet again, but if you stand beneath the cliffs at dusk, the wind seems to carry more than just cold air. It carries voices. So what do you think? Is Stoney Middleton just another sleepy village in the Derbyshire Dales, or is it a place where the dead still walk among the living? From phantom peddlers and hidden corpses to ghostly apparitions leaping from Lover's Leap, this village hides a chilling past beneath its quiet charm. Are the spirits of the wronged and heartbroken still lingering in the shadows, or are these just legends born from the misty hills and moonlit lanes? Let us know what you believe in the comments. Have you experienced anything strange in Stoney Middleton? There's something wrong with the silence in Tavistock. It lingers too long, too heavy, as if the town is holding its breath, remembering. Among these quiet Devonshire lanes at the northern edge of Dartmoor, the past never truly rests. Behind the ivy-covered walls of Kilworthy House, within the crumbling shadows of Fitsford, and beneath the haunted stones of Tavistock Abbey, something waits. Forgotten murders, cursed bloodlines, spirits that return when the world is at its darkest. Tonight, we walk the boundary between history and horror. These are the ghosts of Tavistock. Kilworthy House. The ghost of Judge Glanville's daughter is said to stalk the halls of the old house still, her presence marked by fleeting shadows and the chilling whisper of silk on stone. Here is not a simple haunting. It is the echo of a love that defied authority and a crime that shocked a county. She was young, spirited, and deeply in love with a sailor, a match her father, the formidable Judge Glanville, forbade with iron resolve. Instead, he demanded she marry a wealthy goldsmith, a man she despised. But love, when cornered, can turn desperate. Under cover of darkness, the daughter, her lover, and their loyal servant conspired to rid themselves of the obstacle. The goldsmith was murdered, coldly, cleanly, but fate did not grant them escape. Their crime was swiftly uncovered. The trial gripped Devon in a fever of horror and fascination. But what no one could have expected was that the judge presiding over the trial, the man forced to weigh justice against blood, was her very own father. Bound by the law and the unyielding truth of the evidence, he sentenced his own daughter, her lover, and their servant to hang. Since then, strange things have plagued the site where it all unfolded. Doors slam without cause. The air thickens inexplicably. The faint rustle of a silk gown sweeps the stairwell, though no one is there. Witnesses speak of her with reverence and fear, of glimpses caught in mirrors, or vanishing through walls. The ghost of Glanville's daughter does not rest. Fitsford House. The historian Cox once declared it one of the best authenticated ghosts in Devon, but those who have stood alone in Fitsford House after dark know it's more than just a story. This is a warning. Love, betrayal, and justice have left their mark, and she is still waiting. They say that when midnight cloaks the moors in shadow, a dreadful sound breaks the silence near Fitsford House. The rattling of ancient wheels, forged not from wood or iron, but from bone. Wicked Lady Howard rides again. From the ruins of Fitsford to the dark edges of Oakhampton Park, her spectral coach tears through the night. But this is no ordinary carriage. It creaks and groans, under the weight of its terrible history, its frame built from the bones of 4 murdered husbands, all hers. At the rein sits a headless coachman, silent and still, other than the faint jingle of chains and the cold whistle of the wind echoing through the air. And at the front, leading this morbid procession, is something far worse. A skeletal hound with hollow eyes, or, in darker versions, a monstrous black dog, frothing and silent, that stops for nothing and no one. Each night, she is condemned to ride this haunted path, and each night she must stop at the foot of the ancient castle mound to pick a single blade of grass. Just one blade. She is doomed to repeat this journey every night until the entire mound lies bare, not a single blade left. Only when the grass is gone can her spirit finally rest. But centuries have passed and she still rides. So if you're walking the lanes near Tavistock under a moonless sky and you hear the clatter of hooves behind you, don't look back, don't run. Just pray the hound hasn't caught your scent. Tavistock Abbey. In the shadows of Tavistock, where the mighty abbey once ruled the land, one jagged remnant still stands. Betsy Grimble's tower. Its stones are cracked, its archway hollow, but the silence around it listens. Beneath the arch, you'll find a stone coffin, unearthed when the old chapter house was torn down. The bones once buried there now rest in a local church, but the spirit they belonged to, she never left. Her name was Betsy Grimble. Some say she was betrayed by a monk, others a soldier. But what remains certain is the staircase inside the gatehouse ran red with her blood. She was murdered there, on the spiral steps. Her life ended in panic and pain. And the blood she spilled, it stained the stone and would not fade. For years, townsfolk whispered of the dark marks on the wall, always there, no matter the weather, no matter the years. Now, they say the stains are hard to find, but some believe they only vanish when she walks. She's been seen at the narrow windows of the tower, staring out, waiting. Not often, only when something is about to go terribly wrong. A police officer saw her in 1966, just days before the tragedy of Aberfan. Coincidence or warning? So, if you pass through Tavistock on a quiet evening and glance up at the ruined tower, and something pale moves in the window, watching, don't wave, don't speak, just keep walking. Because Betsy Grimble only shows herself when disaster is looming. And if she's watching you, it may already be too late. And so, Tavistock may seem like a charming Devonshire village by day, but as night falls, it becomes something else entirely. A place where whispers drift through alleyways, ghostly figures linger in the mist, and the past never truly rests. But what do you think? Could centuries of sorrow and mystery have soaked into Tavistock's very foundations, or are these just tales spun by time and imagination? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you've ever experienced anything strange in Tavistock, we definitely want to hear your story.